Welcome, everybody. This is the very first exclusive content episode for our FITLIGHT Neuroperformance course Facebook group. Thank you so much for everybody that signed up to our course and that completed it and signed up for the Facebook group. Today, we're here at the Mind Body One Brain Range facility with nobody else but Mr. Mental Muscle himself, Nicholas Davenport. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. I'm glad to do it.
Well, we're here because it's Brain Awareness Week, and obviously because we wanted to give you guys some exclusive content for FITLIGHT and for the Facebook group. We wanted to talk about what you can do more with FITLIGHT than what was in the course, and who better to do that with than you, Nick.
I try.
You're one of my first clients, I think. You're one of the original users of FITLIGHT, by far the most creative one, which why it was a no-brainer, pun intended, to go over here and to have a little talk with you. Nick, can you tell me a little bit about what you've done in the past, how you came to be, and when you first started using FITLIGHT?
So yeah, I don't know if I ever told you the story, but it's pretty crazy how I came to work with you guys, because I inquired with Alana back in, I think, March 2017. And at the time I was trying to get my funds up because Mind Body One, even though it just started in 2017, I had been doing this stuff to a different degree from just a general performance in psychology for like 5-6 years. So I was already doing similar stuff. But when I saw FITLIGHT, I'm like, I want this. But it was lit out my price range at the time, but I was determined, like, okay, I'll raise the money, save the money, I'll figure it out. So about, I think, 8 months went by. So it was March. So yeah, about September to November, somewhere around that range, I saved up the money, but I had bought another product. I'm like, you know what? This is better. And I'm not trying to be a shameless plug, but I'm like, this was better product. And I stuck with FITLIGHT. And then we met, I think, a week or two later. You came by my old spot. That was the first spot I had. And from that point on, it was just like my goal was to use this software, this technology, to create the most appropriate and practical drills to help people react better, think under pressure, manage stress. My goal was always, it's not just simply for sport, which obviously I work with a lot of athletes, but also with active aging clients, kids, special needs, military, law enforcement. You see my stuff, they might have seen it too. The list goes on. So that's pretty much where I've been at for the last 6 years now with FITLIGHT, trying to build the best drills to make it efficient as possible.
That's amazing. And to your point, if you have not checked his content out, please do so at Mr. Mental Muscle. Any other accounts that they should follow? Mind Body One?
Yeah, so both of those. But funny enough, I use Mr. Mental Muscle way more, only because it has a bigger following, but I still post on both.
Okay. And you are on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you are
everything.
on
YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
And all different content. So please make sure to check that out. Okay, so that's how, and I remember we first met, I think, at the Athletic Business trade show up in Orlando, if I'm correct. By the way, we're here in Deerfield Beach, Florida. That's when we first met, and then I came over to your facility to talk a little bit more. So that's how we first met. That's how you started using FITLIGHT. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing at this moment?
Oh yeah, it's been a long journey. So it's kind of segued, like I said, more from the sport and fitness realm, because that was more my audience then. But now using FITLIGHT, I've worked with tactical populations, helping law enforcement and some military do training drills that use simulation firearms that can mimic the range of how you can train, but it's safer. You can program it, time it, measure it. And they love that part because numbers don't lie. So if I can put you in a situation where you can reenact, that's what I'm big on. Can I reenact the thinking aspect of it? Maybe it won't look like a fight or won't look like something in the real sport or whatever it is, but I'll try to get you to be in the mindset, and I'll program where there's how long the lights stay on, how do I position them, how do I add different variables. You know, I use a lot of like my screen drills where you'll see a Stroop image where the color doesn't match the word, but then you're still peripherally reacting to the light or the grid. So my goal is to always add variables. So you have to be challenged and adapt under the pressure.
Okay, so I hear a lot of things. First, numbers don't lie. It's definitely the quantification of whatever you're already doing. Can you give me an example of a drill or a certain type of training that you did before that you enhanced with lights, and therefore all of a sudden are able to get data from?
Oh yeah, that's an easy one. So basically, before I had FITLIGHT, I would just use colored cones. And I think almost everyone has done this and call out the color. So I was like, you know what? This is too simple. So my next step was,
Sorry to interrupt you. So colored cones, you would and then say, go to the red one, go to the yellow one. Okay.
So blue, run the blue. So it had the same kind of effect far as the cognition, but it was auditory. And those who might not know, your brain is wired about 80% for visual stimuli. So granted, you still need auditory stimulation, but if you're looking at what's going to be the majority of how your brain processes, it's your vision. So it took away a lot of the visual aspect. So the next step was, okay, let me call out numbers instead of colors, and I'll call red 1, blue 2, green 3. So it's a little more thing, not crazy over the top. So it made it a little more challenging. I said, you know what? Once again, progression, just like with fitness, you have to lift heavier, run further. So I said, okay, let's make equations now. So the numbers, the color's still the numbers, but now we're going to do an equation. So 2 + 1 and green is 3. I'm running the green. So it just upped it a little bit. So at the same time, like I said, I was trying to get FITLIGHT, but I couldn't afford it at the time. And I had to save up because I was just a new business trying to make it in the game. I said, you know what? I found these cheap, like $30 lights that you can change the color with a remote. And I put them all around my facility with the cones. So that was kind of like the cheap rigged way to do it. But once again, it wasn't measurable. So getting to the point, getting the FITLIGHT, my clients loved it because it was fun, but I'm a science guy. I need numbers. I want to say this is how we progress. And then at the same time, I started working with some high level athletes such as Dustin Poirier and some other football players. So
Dustin Poirier, MMA fighter.
And former UFC interim champ, just saying, and beat Conor McGregor, but we're not going to get into all that. But basically, I'm getting around these people. So for them, my regular clients, I love them, but they don't care about that stuff. They want to just have fun and move, which you did his job. But when I'm getting with that level, they want to see, why does this make sense? And if I could tell you, if you're usually in like 2/3 or 3/10 of a second, whatever it is, and now you're at 2/10 of a second, that's a 1/10 of a second progress. Not only does it show your progress, I can measure to other athletes I work with. So I say, well, this population usually does 4/10. So now we have comparable data. So not only is it showing that they're better, it shows how they compare. And this makes a world of difference when, especially when I'm working with other people in that same level, you know where they rank. And this means, okay, this might mean something versus like, it's cool, it's fun. It should be cool and fun, but we need those numbers. So definitely it has helped tremendously over the years. I can't lie about that. That's a big part.
All right. You mentioned that you use the lights for different age populations, different sports, different industries. Here to the back, I see the zone of neuroplasticity through exercise. Obviously, we're here you're watching this content in our Facebook group that belongs to the Neuro Performance course. Can you explain a little bit to the audience what you mean with the zone of neuroplasticity through exercise?
So I love acronyms. So it stands for zone, and zone is in the word. But yes, so when I do my programs, I have 4 different parts of the training session. So there's the prime, which is like the warm up to get you visually stimulated, a reaction. So quick thinking, visual eye movements. And then the junction, that's more dynamic. So if I do any reaction drills with the lights, it'll be like maybe 5 to 10 feet apart. So it's a quick burst to it. And then the zone. So this is where this comes in. So the science shows that when we exercise about 30 to 45 minutes and around 60 to 75 beats per minute of your max heart rate, or not beats per minute, but 60 to 75% of your max heart rate, that there's a neurochemical called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So BDNF actually helps protect and stimulate the growth of neurons. And neurons are needed to process information, whether it be thinking, estimating things, or even moving. So by doing things in that parameter, you're making your brain stronger. So people always say exercise is good for the brain. And there's many reasons, but that's one I don't think many talk about, is it actually causes stronger neurons, which helps the brain process. So that's why I call it a zone, because on the other side of that door is a bigger space, like a warehouse setup where I have turf, I have some mats, and we do more dynamic movement stuff. This side is more the stationary. You see the board is to the side of us, and I have a TV screen. I have all types of stuff. So here they do the more stationary, more processing, thinking stuff. And over there, still thinking and processing, but now they got to move too. So that's why it's called the zone. You go through there, you're going to be moving and thinking.
All right, I like that. Well, then let's talk about some drills. Again, you talk about different populations, different industries. Are there certain drills that you use for every population, or does every industry have its own set of drills that you use because you're maybe training different parts of the brain, different parts of the body?
Definitely both. So yeah, so there's definitely maybe 3 or 4 drills that everyone, regardless of their demographic, they're going to do because the relevance is the same. Because I always tell my clients that you may not be an elite level athlete, or maybe you're a 7-year-old, or maybe you're 85, whatever it is, the same function of the brain are still there. So these baseline drills, as we call them, get those measures such as working memory, being able to hold information. So seeing the light in a specific order, it goes away, and now you got to recall it in that order. So that's working memory. Then we'll do peripheral vision, where I do a drill on the vision board where they're doing a grid task and their focus is here, but then every few seconds, one of the 4 peripheral lights will come on. So I have a few drills where everyone, regardless of level, regardless of age or sport or demographic, will do those. And the beauty is the baselines for those, they're very constant. So I know this is where someone who's a pro athlete at this sport should be. I know where an 8-year-old should be. And then the ones that are more specific, they'll take those same parameters of decision making, working memory, peripheral vision, but I'll make it more appropriate for what they do. So we spoke the other day, I was with some baseball players, and they're pretty big on mental training and performing and brain stuff like that. So they're open to new things. So I went up there and worked with some athletes in Clearwater, Florida, which is where the Tampa Bay Rays play. It's on the West Coast from here. We're close to the Marlins. But basically, I did some work with some guys who are free agents who are trying to get picked up on a team. And they were first like, oh, I've seen this before. But I asked them, I always ask when people say they've seen FITLIGHT or anything similar, what did you do or what were they doing? And it'll typically be more like a basic reaction drill, which is nothing wrong because you need those type of drills. But
eye-hand coordination.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, this is similar, but we're going to add that to the baseball specific task. So we did a few hitting drills where they had to see the lights about 30, 40 feet away. So the pitcher's mound in baseball is 60 feet away, but it wasn't as far because I just wanted to be enough so they can see it and perceive it. And they would come on 2 lights on stands, and then it'd be red, green, or blue, and each one is a color or number. Red is 1, blue is 2, and green is 3. So 2 lights come on. They're always 2 different colors too. So it'll be red or blue, green or blue, so forth. So I have to quickly process and add
up. Okay.
So if it's odd number, they swing. If it's even number, they don't swing. And it's on a T. So not only are you reacting, and I have a light underneath the T, so the sensor goes across it. So I know when the time the light activates, how long it took them to say, I'm going to step in and swing. And that tells us the number. And they all range, and all these guys are pros. So the fastest I think was 0.8 seconds to give you an idea of how fast the guys are. And the slowest was 1.1, but they all were in that range. So
still very
8 tenths of a second to 1. And the reason why this is important and relevant for those who follow baseball, I know I'm getting more specific, but this is why it's so great, is because in baseball, it's about 4 tenths of a second between the time the ball is released till it hits the plate. So the first part is a tenth of a second. Did you know the ball has been released? That's already happened. Another 2 tenths of a second is, where's the ball going? What kind of pitch is this? And the last tenth of a second is, am I swinging? So for them to be at 0.8, that's good because you can say, well, that's a lot slower. But think about it. There's a lot more cognitive load, a lot more brain processing going on. So the goal is, think about how people, they'll put something called a donut on the baseball bat. It's like a circular weight, and they'll swing it because it's heavier. They'll take the bat or the weight off the donut and swing again. It's lighter. Same concept, but now we're doing it for our brain. So I know I went deep into that, but that's, I think, the perfect example of how this stuff can be specified for a sport or any demographic. So yeah.
So you're adding cognitive loads to an exercise as almost as much as you can to train the brain to make decisions faster, so it'll be easier when they're actually in a sports situation.
Exactly. That's exactly the method. And that's why I tell people, if you have questions of how does it carry over, always thinking it from that point. Don't think, is it going to be a better hitter because of that? It's going to give them the tools to be a better hitter, because you need to do hitting, or you need to take jump shots to dribble. FITLIGHT just going to add the extra value because now you're doing with extra pressure, extra thinking. You take those away. So it's basically having that extra resistance like on weights, but with your mind. So FITLIGHT comes in great handy for that.
Okay, so we're talking about baseball. I know you're an avid, or you used to be an avid football player yourself, also baseball, but also football. How does FITLIGHT translate to utilizing it for football, for example, American football, that is?
We had to talk about that too.
European.
We had to talk about that too. But yeah, with American football, the first, I guess it's the lowest hanging fruit. So I'm going to say it, timing. Because I know in the 40-yard dash is one of the biggest things. When you go to a camp, when I was younger, we run the 40. So you can use it as a timer. And a lot of coaches I noticed are starting to use it more. I've seen it more, and that's pretty cool. Because I remember I was using it and people are like, you can do that? I'm like, yeah, why not? And I see a lot more. So that's cool that people are utilizing that. So that's the lowest hanging fruit, because You want to know how fast you are on the shuttle or the 40. So that's a great way to use it. And it can be used for other things. So for example, agility, change of direction. Football has a lot of lateral movement, straight and forward, obviously, because the goal is to progress forward, but a lot of side to side. So having that visual perception of where am I scanning, seeing, oh, that's the color, need to get there, put it out. Or how I use it sometimes is I love doing the extra cognitive load, but I have two lights and then a cone will be on the other side, like say a red cone and a blue cone. And then I'll do the same thing with the two lights being a color or number, I should say, and you have to add it, and it'll be like an odd number, go to the red cone, even number, go to the blue cone. So now it's getting confusing because you're seeing red and blue or green and red, but red and blue is the color you react to. So now it's like you have to negate the color regardless because it's like if 1 and 2 is odd, so you go to the red cone, now you got to process. Not only do I know what these colors mean, now I need to know what does the answer mean, and then where do I go? So imagine running the ball full speed, it turns on, you have to quickly plant. And sometimes people run through the light because they'll be like, oh man, not run through, but like kind of stop on a dime because like, I don't know where to go. And then they don't get the drill right, which I like because now it's teaching them how to recover. So that's a big takeaway too is failure. You might get a slower time. A lot of people, what I do this time? It'll be like a 10th of a second slower or 1 second slower and they get beat up. And I like that part because I'm a big psychology guy because obviously it all comes under the same umbrella. That way they can reinforce, okay, sometimes you're going to be slower just like in a game, just like in life. So now they can say, all right, Johnny, you didn't get 1.1 seconds. Your last two were 1.6. Okay, what do we need to change? Well, I think I was doing this. So, okay, let's try this differently and go back. And now you can reinforce it. And if it gets better, it works. If it doesn't, you go back to the drawing board. So it's used as a feedback system as well, not just a measurement of how fast or quick I am. I know how I can improve. So lots of things there.
All right, I like that. How do you call that? That translation to everyday life. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you get slower, and then you pick it back up, and you become faster. So we're talking about very specific drills here. Before we started this conversation, I told you that I would love to talk about your top 3 drills with FITLIGHT. I'm going to pick one because I saw you doing it for the very first time, and it's called, and I think a lot of you people have seen it on our website or on our social media lots of times. It's called red, yellow, green, blue. You have to deactivate the lights in the order red, yellow, green, blue. Can you tell me a little bit, why do people have to do that drill or have to do it? But why is it a good drill, and what part of the brain or your body is being trained while doing that drill?
So you know what's something funny? I'll go with that. I actually have a name for that drill. And I don't think anyone knows it. I
don't even know it.
Yeah, I think it's in my course that I have, but I call it R ordering. So R stands for rainbow. So rainbow ordering. So that was kind of, I refer in some of my posts like that sometimes, but I don't think anyone truly knows that's what I call it. But red, yellow, green, blue is the easiest way to describe it. But basically why it's important because it works on something called cognitive flexibility. A lot of people say pattern recognition, which it does fall into that because pattern recognition is seeing something and knowing what to do with it. But where cognitive flexibility goes a little further is it changes order every time. So obviously red, yellow, green, blue is the order you deactivate it, but the lights will not always be in that order. It might be in the order green, blue, red, yellow, but you still have to do it in the order prescribed. So that's where cognitive flexibility comes in because when we solve problems, we're going to see it in one way that's presented, which is probably incorrect. That's why it's a problem. But then you got to say, wait, I need to figure it out and do it in the correct way. So you're stimulating the same region of the brain in the prefrontal cortex and the frontal lobe. There's 3 parts I'll talk about. I actually like talking about this. The prefrontal cortex, the ACC, which is the anterior cingulate cortex, and the VTA is the ventral tegmental area. So I'll just use the abbreviations from here on out. So the PFC, prefrontal, that's goal planning and decision making. So when you think about the lights coming in that order, you have to say, which way am I going to go? Which light do I need to put out? So that's prefrontal. The ACC is error detection. So this is, okay, did I do it correct? Because sometimes you will put them out wrong. You'll put green, blue or green, red in the wrong order. And guess what? It's okay. You messed up. Just like I said before, reinforcement. So what the ACC does is error detection. So it says, hey, you did that wrong. Go back and do it correct. So when the next 4 sequence comes up, you do it in the right way. And that's where the VTA comes in. When we talk about dopamine, a lot of people talk about dopamine is the feel-good neurotransmitter, but that's only part of the story. Dopamine is really for reinforcement and motivation to do it again. So what happens is if I do it in the correct order, my air detector says, good job. VTA says, all right, release the dopamine, do it again, and you reinforce the cycle over. So when you do that drill, you're teaching your brain how to look at problem solving in a flexible way, as well as reinforcing good or unintentional mistakes, but to go back and do it again because they're coming on quick. I usually put them on, if it's just like more of a stationary reaction, they're probably going to be on no more than 2 seconds. So you got to be quick. Now, if it's a movement base, I'll put it on for about 4 to 5 seconds. It'll probably be about 3 to 4 feet apart, going laterally or in a box shape.
And stationary, you mean right in front
Like
of you?
right in front of you, yeah,
right,
on a wall or on a board or right in front of you. And then movement wise, they'll be like 3 to 4 feet apart on stands or tripods, and then have to move. So they'll give them about 5 seconds because you got to do 4. So average reaction on those are usually between like 1 to 3 seconds. That way they have enough time to do all 4. And once again, that's scalable to any level because you can just put on a longer time for say a person who has maybe movement issues or older person or a child or something like that.
And I know you've, at least originally, I saw the drill being executed with the lights on the floor. Could you just as easily do it when the lights are on a wall and deactivate them with your hands?
Yeah. So that's basically what I was describing with the hands. So with the floor, that's good too, because now you have the foot coordination, which I think is a good thing because it changes how we're utilizing our body. Because obviously our hands are easier. We use them for everything. But our legs, while we do use them for everything too, because you have to stand, walk, but that coordination is a little bit trickier because much larger gross motor movement versus your hands, more fine motor movement. So you have to be a little more precise. But with the feet, it's like you're moving larger muscle groups because my arms, you got your shoulder, you got your elbow. So it's not too much, but you have your large legs, you got your hip joints, you got your quads, your glutes. So now you're getting a little more exercise and cardio too. So that's a good way to do it.
All right. Well, that was my top drill.
Yeah.
Give me your other two.
So I'm gonna go off of this, and I haven't used it in a while, but I've seen a few people. I've seen Pierre use it and some other people, and it actually is still my favorite drill. But I need to get back
Pierre,
to it.
I assume. Yep.
I said Pierre. Pierre.
No, Pierre Elite.
Pierre Elite Performance. Because I think of people
Yeah.
with brands, even like my guy Phil. I call him Daru Strong in my phone, and that's one of my closest friends for like last 15, 16 years. So yeah, but basically 25 is a drill where there's 5 lights about 2.5 feet apart on the floor, and I usually use the bases too, so they can stay stationary. So basically, it's called 25 because out of the 5 lights, they may not all light up at once. Some may light up 1 on the left, 1 on the right, 2 in the middle, or all 5. But wherever it is, the end goal is there will be 25 presented lights, and you need to deactivate them as fast as possible. And the reason I like it so much is because 1, it's very big on agility. You have to move, and you deactivate with your feet. But the problem is some people get so antsy to want to just go to the other side, and sometimes they'll come on the same side. And I program it just the way where it's inconsistent in that. So you get caught up in, oh, 1 here, 1 there, 1 here, 1 there, all 5. Then it'll go back again, and you have to stop yourself, that inhibition to say, wait, don't move yet. So a lot of impulse control. So that's why I really like that, because it makes you move. It's agility and impulse control. So 25. Now the other one, I'm trying to think because I got so many, but I got to think of one. It's like having kids, right? You can't say, "Oh, I like this child better," right?
Wow.
Well, you shouldn't say that.
I like that comparison.
You shouldn't say it, but I'm sure my parents might like my brothers better. I'm playing, but basically, I would go with. I will go with my. So this is another simple. I'm picking 2 simple ones because people say, "Oh, you do so much," but this is a perfect example of sometimes simple is better for certain things. Now you can get elaborate like I like to do, but these are simple. So this one is a drill that I use another apparatus on an iPad. It's a concentration grid, and this can be done with low tech or the app. But the 4 lights, they're set up on the vision board, 1 on each corner, and in the middle is a screen. So what a concentration grid is, for those who don't know, there's 100 numbers scrambled up, so they're all out of order. And on the screen, so I usually use a 10-inch iPad screen, so it's big enough. I don't like using the small ones for this. So you have a minute. I give you a minute to find as many numbers in order. So you're scrambling, visually scanning, but peripherally.
Do you have to call them out?
Well, yeah. So if you do it low tech with just a piece of paper, because you can print these out, and I have a bunch of these sheets.
Oh, sorry, you're actually touching the okay.
So yeah, now if you want to do it tech, there's an app that you can use where you can do it, and you touch it, and it turns red once it signifies that you found it. So you're finding them, but every few seconds, I program it, usually about 2.5 seconds, a light will come on one of those 4 peripherals. Now, there's 2 reasons I love this drill and why it's a good one, I think, is because 1, it works some key components. peripheral vision because you're looking straight at the screen trying to find the numbers. But when you reach for the light, I see a lot of people overreach or underreach. So now you're really using that body awareness and you have that peripheral. So if you're not even seeing it because you're so focused here, you're not even going to see the light. And that happens a lot. People will say, wait, there's lights? I'm like, remember the rules? It's like, oh yeah, I didn't see any. It's like, oh, they were there. So they were so engrossed. So that's one reason. But also it shows how people handle stress. Such a simple drill, but I've seen some of the biggest, best athletes all the way down to little kids lose their minds because where's three? Where's three? And light comes on. Oh, where's the light? And they're just frantic because that brain wants to focus on both. But people who do it first time usually succumb to one or the other. They either do well on the numbers, miss all the lights, or they get all the lights, which is usually about 18 or 20 in a minute. If you're very fast, you do well on that, but they don't get a lot of numbers. So what it tells me is how do they switch their attention and focus? So all in all, that drill is probably my favorite overall because it shows a lot of different things and implements different aspects of processing. And it shows me how their disposition to stress and worry can be shown as simple as doing the reaction drill with the fit lights.
And I've seen you do this drill with, I believe there were the cadets for a county sheriff's office.
Yeah, you must be. You were there.
And there was a group of people behind, around the person actually executing the drill, and the stress that came with that of the peer pressure, and to your point, not even seeing a light that is relatively close in your peripheral vision. It was very fascinating.
Oh yeah.
One other drill that I would like to mention, because obviously you mentioned Dustin Poirier that you train. You mentioned inhibition training. I've seen him do the go, no-go drill.
How did I forget that? That definitely is in there.
Insane speed that even looking at it makes me want to do it. However, I try to execute it the way he does. Obviously, it's impossible the way he does it.
I forgot about that drill. That actually is
with
another.
The two hands on the knees, two lights in front. I don't want to take away what you want to tell about it, but two lights in front of him on a table. I think knees are at table height, hands on the knees, and whenever both lights will go on, green and red, or red and red, or green and green, and only green needs to be deactivated. Correct? What does that do?
So yeah, you said inhibition, impulse control. So the typical go, no go in life, green is traffic light. So green is go, red is don't go. So we'll start with that. And they're presented with 26 total lights. So 13 sets because it's two lights each. So some will match, like you said, will be two green. So that's two goes. Sometimes it'll be two red. Sometimes it'll be one red, one green. So then they'll throw them off because they got to decide, wait, I need to go for this hand, but not that hand. But sometimes they're so fast, they don't stop themselves. They'll do both, which is, or if they can't stop themselves, though, do what we call a false positive, where they'll try to move but come back, which is okay because they didn't do it, but it still has a factor of you almost did it. So that drill definitely is the top one. And he did about, I think his record, he has a record, it was 0.232. So just under a quarter of a second. My best was like 2.6. So I'm not too far off.
All right. Yeah. But you do this on a daily basis. So fair enough.
As much as I can. Obviously, I test everything out. So indirectly, I'm doing these drills more than most people. So yeah.
Well, with that, we discussed, I think, 3 or 4 of our top drills with FITLIGHT. Thank you so much. Before we close this conversation, can you tell me a little bit about what the future beholds for you and what you're working on, and give us a little sneak peek?
So yeah, so the future is bright. I don't be cliche, but it's bright. I didn't try to. But it's bright because I have a lot of things in the work for the education side. So like this course, obviously, specific to FITLIGHT and using the best if you can. I'm making a course where it'll be more so for people who want to get into the mental performance field from how I approach it, because one of my biggest takeaways, I indirectly have learned different fields of psychology, neuroscience, some on purpose, some just by chance because my life took me that way. And I want to teach people how to do this themselves because I'm big on spreading the knowledge. I was a college professor for 5 years, so I literally taught some of this stuff at the school, teaching psychology, mental health, performance even. I taught some of the FITLIGHT drills. They loved it there. And that's where I got a lot of my data too. So basically, I'm looking to put out that course. It should be out by the end of the month or at worst early April. And it'll teach you not just how to use the different equipment such as FITLIGHT, other tools that I create, my grids, as well as how to program. I think that's the biggest one where you might get this question a lot. How do I put together programs? I know FITLIGHT has tons of drills you can just do, but some people want to create theirs too. So I'm big on that. And also to teach this, I think the biggest takeaway is how to scale it and use it. And one thing with FitLight, I think about 4 years ago, I saw a comment where someone's like, I want these FitLights, but I'm trying to save up. And I was like, you know what? It's the best investment. And this is not me trying to say because I work with you guys forever. It's because when I got them going back to 2017, my mindset was this is not just a tool to use. I I think our brands have been synonymous indirectly and directly, I guess, for years. Even my logo has key colors, red, yellow, green, blue, right? So basically, I saw it as an investment because why would I buy these just to have versus no, I'm going to use it to upsell people because what most people don't have is something like this that they can give because most people are doing, if it's just fitness, most people can do treadmill or lift weights, that's fine. But now if you're a fitness trainer, guess what? And people who take my current course, which is a little lesser, they take this and they're like, wow, I never thought to use this stuff. So that gives them value. Let's say you're a sport coach, you coach football or baseball, gives you that value. Say you're an occupational therapist, physical therapist. So I saw it as this is a return on investment, which I can't give you an exact number. If I knew it, I would, but it definitely played. If I would put a percentage, it was definitely 50-fold of what I paid for these because I use them in a way where I can upsell my business. So that's what that course will tell you more than anything is how to utilize different things such as the FitLight equipment, such as your brand and grow in the mental and brain performance field. And one thing I'll leave with also with what's in the future is I'm looking to incorporate more mental coaching. So I'm actually working on a few I can't disclose yet, but when I can, I'll definitely let you know of people that will be able to not learn, but work with me in the mental coaching sector. I have a few contracts right now where I do workshops, team building, executive coaching, which it goes beyond. And the funny thing is, I don't want to sound like I'm just plugging, but what do you think I used in some of these workshops?
It's
FitLight.
FitLight.
And you saw one of them. You literally saw one of them. So I go out there and I teach them mental skills. I teach them how to manage stress. And the beauty is I use these at the end. So you learned all that. Let's see it work in real time. And you saw some of them, it did, and some of them it didn't. But the beauty is now we can. So that's probably the next transition with Mind Body One is to get more into team building, mental skills coaching, but still utilizing all my methods. And I probably will never veer away from it. Using FitLight has, like I said, it keeps sounding like I'm trying to sell it, but obviously I really believe in this. I'm not even trying to joke. And I feel that anyone who buys this, they have the potential to grow their business more than just saying these are cool, fun drills, but you can also make it a lifestyle change for people who's like, now I feel better performing mentally and cognitively because of what you've given me.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for having me over here at your facility and for doing this, obviously. I hope you all enjoyed this first exclusive episode, I guess, for our Neuroperformance Course Facebook group. If you have not yet, please check Nick out at Mr. Mental Muscle, The Brain Range, and The Mind Body One, all online.
Thank you.
Nick, thank you so much. And please tune in next time for more exclusive content for FitLight. Thank you so much.